Good morning everyone and welcome back to another video here on the channel where after a 2-month long break it's finally back, the series that nobody really wanted to see continue, but we're here building Chinatown in Lego form, and today I actually have something exciting for you where we're going to be integrating the Chinese New Year set, which I believe is set number 80005, that's probably wrong, into our street here. And if you haven't watched the rest of this series and this is something you're interested in, you can find the playlist linked on the channel. So anyway, as for what I'm doing, I have taken this module from the Chinese New Year Fair, which I built in an Octane's Oracle a couple of weeks ago. If you haven't seen that one, maybe in a couple of weeks' time. And what we're going to do is we're going to attach this facade to the top of our street, and this is going to be the centerpiece of our street. And what we're doing now is just altering like how it blends in with our buildings on either side, because obviously we have this other building which it adjoins to, which it needs to blend with. So as for what we're going to be doing today, we're going to be building this facade into the front of a building, and I'm thinking like old brick red, and I haven't quite decided at this point whether I want to use medium nougat or dark red, but it looks like we're settling with dark red with grey being the accent. So what I'm doing now is I'm building up this small little wall and adding some little accent like trims around the edges just to add some contrast color, and also sort of just blending this facade of this giant big temple into the area that we've got and that you can see. So we filled up that wall almost, and we're going to go replicate to the other side. But obviously, because we've got this giant temple front, I need a way to integrate a second floor of this building naturally. So what we're doing here is we're building that top layer out at a very similar height to our other buildings, where we can I don't really know how to say it, support the next level. I guess that's what we're doing. Okay, and then next up we've moved over to the other side, where we're going to replicate that design, and obviously you can use the copy and mirror tool as I did, but we're just changing some colors. I decided I wanted grey to be the base layer because it looks substantially better, and then I'm just adding in all the details and all the trim and replicating over what I did on the other side, as you can see. So once those look on there, I think it looks pretty nice from the front. We just got to keep going with this support structure, and then we can build up further and try and get this nice mix of European building with also this Chinatown influence, which is something I picked up a lot from my research. These giant, like old buildings, have had these facades stuck on the front of them, but then even small details out the windows have been slightly modified. And I think it's a really interesting concept to try and tackle, so that's what we're doing here today. So, as I mentioned earlier, this is obviously one part of a massive series on the channel where we're building Chinatown. So what about what's going in this building? And while that's not something that we're working on today, I still think it's important to discuss. The downstairs will be sort of like an arcadey building. Like, I don't mean an arcade as in where you play games. We have these things in the UK called arcades, and they're basically passageways through buildings which have a lot of shops through them. I don't know if you guys have those abroad. But we have these things called arcades, and that's sort of what's going to be on the ground floor. And the two shops in there, one of them is going to be like a games store, and I don't mean computer games. I mean like board games and uh, World of Warcraft. Like that kind of gamey stuff. But just because I thought it was a bit different and fitted in this grungy atmosphere of this arcade that we're going to have. And then on the other side, we're going to have the entrance to our spa, which is something that will be above the green building on this building's left. As for the other side of this building, while we're still faffing around with designs for the second floor windows, there'll be a small alleyway and then a park. So that's why I didn't do the sides of this building today, is because I know I'm going to have to decorate one of them, and that's terrifying. As for what we're doing here actually in the build, you can see we're building up more of this dark red and grey. I chose to use some round bricks to sort of represent some pillars, and they're actually at different thicknesses, but I think that works okay. I've also decided that instead of using normal windows, we were going to use these grills, which I was worried might make it look a bit too Middle Eastern, but no, it was actually fine, which I think is a good call, so I'm pleased with that. So we're also just building in the floor, and then of course replicating over to the other side. We're using the Ninjago fence, which just helps give this building this very like abandoned factory kind of view. So like this was an old factory that was then built into the Chinatown, but also that they've tweaked some of these details, like you can see with the windows and the fence gates, in order to make them it fit more with the environment. So I think the end result is pretty impressive. So we've got our floating floor, obviously, because I didn't do any of the side walls, and we'll definitely be coming back to that next time we work on this particular building, which hopefully should be a lot more regular now. And what I just did there, for those of you who don't know, is this build's getting pretty big. So in order to help Studio run, I hid about 3 buildings just to speed up like my computer's capability to cope with this, and that will be something we see and again throughout this project because it is clearly too big. So what I'm doing quite right now is I'm building up some support structures underneath the arcade passageway that's going to go through the middle of the building, because I did want to at least get the bottom of the facade on the pavement sorted. So I'm just positioning these archways, which were originally on the back of the Chinese New Year Temple Fair, in a position that I'm happy with, and you're going to see in a minute I changed my mind. Um, so these are just pieces that I'm reusing from elsewhere in the original build, and now we're going to integrate them onto the back wall of this building. However, there will not be too much of a Chinese influence on this back wall at all. This wall will be more of that normal like brick wall style, just like a normal building again, which is why I haven't done it today, is because I don't quite know how I want to do it yet. That's something I've got to work on in between episodes, but luckily I've got a fair bit of time coming up, so hopefully I'm going to get at least another couple of floors done on a lot of these buildings, and that you guys will be able to see some more regular content coming from Chinatown. That said, though, I do have a lot of interesting videos planned, so maybe we won't. Okay, so what we're doing now is I'm trying to come up with a good entrance staircase. I originally played around with handlebars, and now I'm trending more towards an open staircase to make it feel more like a renovated building rather than a posh like school or something. This way it will make it feel more like an arcade which you can actually walk through rather than a privately owned establishment or flat complex. Just these little details that help sell what you're trying to do. I'm going to have some problems with some stair heights. I think I've decided on 2 plates for every step and then the tile being on top of that. But nope, no I didn't. And I like my stairs to be consistent, so that's what you're seeing there. And I'm making use of the Mario 2x6 tiles there as well. Using a combination of dark grey, dark bluish grey and light bluish grey, and then some more drainage, which I thought would make a nice detail in the corner. Just adding in some finalized tiles just to fill in the gaps and colouring those up to their respective colours, and we have a perfectly normal modular sidewalk to go in there. Right, back to the top of the building, because I actually do want to get this side of the building and a roof line in. I mean, at least for you guys to see so I can get some feedback. We're going to use some panel pieces behind here because obviously they can't be seen, and then we're going to fill up the rest of the wall using some more dark red bricks, only using texture where it's necessary because obviously you don't need it elsewhere. We've just got to work out what to do with these weird pillars as well, because obviously they go up one further, they'll go out one further stud on the outside compared to the inside. And yeah, I'm happy with using a square on the top of that. That kind of makes them stand out. I actually do really like that mixed elevation. Well, now it's time to fill in some gaps, add some more details, and I'm adding a bit of a, I wouldn't call it like a trellis, but a little of a support beam for like bringing out the next floor. And I had to change those squares to round so that they would actually fit inside these little black accents that we're putting on the roof. We're also going to be using some black slopes as nice simplistic roofing, so to sort of add in a bit of that Chinesey feel, which at the moment is probably slightly too Chinesey considering this is supposed to be a reclaimed building. So we'll have to think about what we're going to redo, what we're going to do about that at some point. Here we go, we've got a nice black line in there, and that's definitely not the end of our building, although we are adding some more tassels and details. And then it is time to add some more support networks behind, another pillar, and then we're going to be building up another layer in just a second. Of course, before it's time to do that, I need to add some more supports wherever I actually can, because I kind of built those walls in a really weird way. Right, okay, on to the next floor. Obviously, we just got to get up and above the black awning that we did on the floor below, and we're going to have more windows on this floor, 4 windows in fact, and that's pretty much going to be almost our full height there. I'm just going to build up some different patterns here, so we're going to use a mix of dark red masonry and non-dark red masonry to sort of create this nice, very simplistic texture of worn but also not too worn like brickwork. So you can see that the patterns of the masonry just fade away towards the top. Then we're going to have some more of our dark bluish grey, and they sort of look like they're holding up the awning, although they're not actually doing any support work. And then we're going to use the classic inverted slope look as well as a couple of other details, like a pentagonal nexonite tile in the middle. And then I've got to fill those gaps as well, because we can't just leave them plain, and I'm just going to use simple cylinders for this. Sometimes the original basic roofs work brilliantly, and this one is a slight variation on the haunted house fairground ride. So I wanted to add another detail to the roof, so I decided to go with some cheese slopes on every other of these tiles, which sort of add a bit more of that Chinese flair. But I do think it's looking a lot like a warehouse at the same time, and it's not supposed to look fully like a warehouse, because obviously this is the Chinatown side, but it is supposed to be believable as a reclaimed building, and I think it is. So let's go take a look in studio. Oh, well. I think you could say it was a bit of a risk using the dark red, but honestly, I think it paid off. I mean, just look at the way this street is coming together. It's going to be so vibrant, and I really want to get this dark green, the sand green even section, built up to full height, just because I think it's going to look absolutely incredible. In fact, I really want to give the sand green building some love. Obviously, from the back, it's not looking so hot yet, and that is mainly because I want to do the interior before I finish up that wall, just so it's an easier viewing experience. And obviously, you can imagine it's going to link in with this very suburban street level, which we're going to have running along the outside. But obviously, we didn't actually touch much of that today. I mean, if we just view it from our street angle, it definitely does exactly what I want as a centerpiece. Now, I think a lot of people would have been worried to use dark red, mainly because, Joel, just look at how it does blend in. But it also does just feel like it has been built into the street. And once we get some more details along at street level, and once we get our other buildings built in and you don't have these gaps on the left and the right, I just absolutely love how that looks. That's really incredible. I'm really pleased with that. Well, obviously, let me know what you guys think. You could disagree really strongly. But that is the joy of opinions. So, as I mentioned earlier, we have this green building, which is going to have to be completed up to a second floor level very shortly. In fact, I think that might be our next week project. However, I would also like to sort out the alleyway, although that is going to require a lot of man effort on my part, because I'm going to have to put the Chinese New Year Temple Fair Park set from 2021 in this gap here. And that is a mirror build, so that's going to be fun, although I'm going to see if I can find an online model for it, although I'm sure it would be a nice fun studio build if the parts list isn't too aggravating. But no, I don't really have much more to say about it, other than I'm really proud of what I was able to do, which is fairly unusual on this channel. Usually I don't quite like what I come up with, but I really like this facade, and for such a centerpiece of the building, I think it's really going to tie together the two sides of the street, because on this side of the street you're going to have your more fancy architecture, and then as we go on to the other, we're going to have a slightly more traditional approach with some different shop fillers and that. I really like the inclusion and they was able to mix Chinese New Year Temple Fair into this red building, and I can't wait to attempt to continue with doing the other side of it. I think that's going to be a real challenge to nicely blend the two. I mean, the alleyway is basically just going to be a modified version of the front. I think I've just got to add enough details to make it feel special. But no, it's great. We just need to fill in some of these gaps. If we could get a ground floor in across the majority of this layer, that would be absolutely fantastic. But I just love this angle. We just need to fill in those gaps to make it even better, and then deal with this building down here, which of course is going to be the dreaded four-sided modular. Oh, I'm not looking forward to that one at all. Well, I am slightly. Anyway, that is going to do it for today. We have a really nice footprint here in our fourth week, and I apologise for the long wait if you really were excited to see this series. I know it hasn't got a lot of interest on the channel, but I do promise that I will finish everything through to completion that I start, so look forward to seeing that, I guess. And in the meantime, I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.